Hello, my name is Isaac, and I'm doing my full English speech about similarities with the Bible and current events happening today. So, with this speech, it's just dates and events that are happening in the modern day and how those dates can relate to stuff in the Bible. So, basically, the key verse that I'll be using that relates, that I'm using this to make references is with Luke 21:25. So someone asks Jesus when he will come again, and he replies, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. On the earth there will be nations be in anguish and perplexity, at roaring and tossing of the sea." So that basically refers when Jesus will come back, and all these events that I'm talking about relates to that key verse. So basically, no one really knows the exact date and time of when Jesus will come back, because in Matthew 24:36, it states that no one, including the angels, don't even know when Jesus will come back. And also, the Bible is very informative. It has a lot of information about how to live your life, and also has information for Jesus' second coming. And one thing I was taught in elementary school is an acronym for the Bible, and it's basic instructions before leaving Earth. I found that pretty cool. Now, like I said, all these events are current, and you can always look these up and notice that these are going on. Alright, so with the first part, with the signs in the moon and the stars, and basically in the Bible verse in Joel, and also all over the Bible, it talks about how the moon will be turned to red. So, and also there will be signs in the moon. So basically, one thing that you can think of is with the solar eclipse. People who, back in ancient times, like Muslims in ancient times, they believed that eclipses were something meaning of like something evil is happening. So like in this article that I found, it says that it states that Muslims assert the solar eclipse phenomenon is a reminder from God, the day of judgment. Therefore, Muslims are recommended to offer worships. So basically, people always thought that solar eclipses were just a sign from God. And then also, something really interesting is the United States just had an eclipse happen last year, and it went from Oregon all the way to South Carolina. I was lucky enough to go see it with my mom, and then I drove down to GC for school. But there's going to be another eclipse 7 years in the United States. That's going to go from Texas all the way up to Maine, I think. So these solar eclipses are happening, and plus, solar eclipses happen like every few times a year. It's just that it takes about 375 years for a total solar eclipse to happen again in the same location. And then also the blood moons. Those are lunar eclipses. And people always thought that those relate to the bad things that happen, like aside from God. And so basically, this one pastor pointed out that when four blood moons happen within the same, like very close to each other, we call it a tetrad. And one thing that he pointed out was that the solar eclipses, or the lunar eclipses, we just had a tetrad happen a couple years ago, and they all happen on Jewish holidays. And also he pointed out that every time a tetrad happened, something significant happened to Jewish people. So if you were to look at it in 1493, and it happened to 1494, that's when the Spanish Inquisition happened. And that's where the Spanish people were kicking out the Jews because they didn't like their religion. And the next one that happened was in 1949. That's when Israel became a nation. And then the other time that happened was in 1943. I'm sorry, 1967. And that's when Jerusalem was reunited because Israel kicked out Jordan out of Jerusalem. And then another thing that's kind of interesting is that there's gonna be another tetrad gonna happen in 2033, so about in 12 years or so. So that's kind of interesting. So then another point that it's another part of the verse that talks about nations will be anguished and with perplexity. So that basically means that people are going to be suffering. And the Bible verse that kind of relates to it is like Mark 13:8, where it talks about people will be against each other. And this can relate to forest fires, like with the campfire that's going on in California right now. So far, about 70 or 80 people have been confirmed dead, and there's still 1,000 people missing. And also, this can also relate to global warming, because the temperatures are rising. That will cause, and because of that, things will warm up, which will make fires easily to start. And that can also start famines. So one article that I found about global warming is that the author states that over time climate change can reduce agricultural resources through reduced availability of water, and it talks about with increased pollution, it can be toxic. So and also California has been in a drought for last year. So this is kind of sad. And then also with the earthquakes happen like all the time, but you've noticed that earthquakes have been going off recently. And then also with volcano eruptions, Indonesia right now has been having a lot of volcanoes going off. And also the volcano in Hawaii that happened last year. And from the year 2000, about 2,000 people have died from volcanoes. And that also includes like Indonesia and stuff. So my other point talks about the roaring and tossing of the sea. That refers to hurricanes. So like the Americas and Europe have been having some hurricanes, and that's been affecting people with floodings and stuff like that. And also with the rising of the sea levels, because of global warming, the snow melts. And so another thing that's kind of interesting is that with 80% of the people in the world they live within 60 miles of the coast. So with the sea level rising, it's going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to cause perplexity on the nations. And one source I found really interesting was with the UN climate change report from 2017. And the people there within the article stated that unless the world acts to begin addressing the greatest challenge, which is global warming, then as we know it, we're doomed. So we really need to work on global warming, because it's gonna become really bad. We're starting to see the side effects of it. So basically, in conclusion, humans they need to be aware of the current events, because there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and we just don't really pay attention to it. And basically, humanity is abusing the world. They're treating others with hatred. That's horrible. And also, the Bible is unknowing. Like I stated, the Bible is very informative. And one thing that Jesus stated that we can live by is that which is the golden rule, and it is so in everything, do to others what they would have to do to them. So that's basically my speech, and